Muirfield Village, Jack Nicklaus's own backyard, a room packed with the biggest names in golf. That is where the 18-time major winner stood up and made his case directly to the new CEO of the PGA Tour, Brian Rolapp. The atmosphere shifted the moment Nicklaus started speaking. Everyone knew this was serious. But what happened next? Nobody saw it coming. The response Nicklaus received wasn't just a simple no, it was far more final. And the 41 players sitting in that room witnessed every second. They saw the expressions change. They heard the tension in the voices. What they walked away from that meeting is now sending shockwaves through the entire tour. The question is not what Nicklaus proposed. The question is what Rolapp said that made 41 professionals question everything they thought they knew about their own tour. This isn't just about one disagreement. This is about the direction professional golf is heading. It feels like a line in the sand. On one side, the greatest legend the sport has ever known. On the other, the man brought in to reshape the business. The fallout is already showing. Players are forced into impossible scheduling choices. Traditional tournaments are losing star power, and it all traces back to what was said inside that room at the Memorial Tournament. Personally, I think this might be the biggest turning point we have seen in decades. If you were in that room, would you have backed Nicklaus or Rolapp? Let me know in the comments. And if you genuinely care about where this tour is heading, hit that subscribe button, because we are just getting started. To understand why that no landed so heavily, we have to look at who was delivering it and who was receiving it. This was never going to be a simple conversation. This was a collision between two completely different worlds. Jack Nicklaus doesn't just play golf. He built the modern professional golf landscape. The PGA Tour as we know it exists because of his influence, his vision, and his relentless pursuit of excellence. When Nicklaus speaks about scheduling, about player fatigue, about preserving traditions, people listen, not out of politeness, out of respect. Now turn the page to Brian Rolapp. He spent decades in the NFL, a league that operates on cold, hard numbers, billion-dollar media rights, and ruthless efficiency. He was not hired to preserve tradition. He was hired to evolve the business, squeeze more value from every tournament, and create a modern structure. When he sat across from Nicklaus at Muirfield Village, he brought an entirely different playbook to the table. Inside that room, the tension was suffocating. On one side, an 86-year-old legend who has earned the right to be heard. On the other, the new executive whose job depends on bold moves, even if they upset the old guard. In between, 41 current players watching every gesture, listening to every word. That moment was just the beginning. What Rolapp said next didn't just reject Nicklaus's proposal. It rejected the very foundation the old guard built their careers on. This wasn't just about tournament schedules. This was about the soul of professional golf. Nicklaus wanted to protect the rhythm of the season, keep the game healthy for players and fans. Rolapp wanted to restructure the entire machine, create clearer pathways and higher stakes. Both believed they were right. Neither was willing to back down. The fallout is already rippling through locker rooms. Players are feeling the squeeze. The calendar is becoming a pressure cooker. And the decisions behind closed doors are affecting who shows up, who pulls out, and who gets left behind. Let's go back to what Nicklaus actually said that day. The proposal itself tells you why this clash was inevitable. Nicklaus stood in front of that room and pointed directly at the schedule. He said the tour had become too congested. Big tournaments were bunched too close together. He used the Florida swing as an example. Pebble Beach, Los Angeles, Tigers event, the Cognizant Classic, Bay Hill, and the Players all running in succession. That is a brutal stretch. He specifically called out the Cognizant Classic. He asked, what chance does that tournament have? It sits right in the middle of those. They don't have a chance. That line was not just criticism. It was a warning. Nicklaus was saying the tour's own structure was cannibalizing its traditional events. The smaller tournaments with history and character were being squeezed out by the weight of the bigger ones. But Nicklaus wasn't finished. He had one more point that made Rolapp's blood run cold. He warned about player burnout. He said, I could play a couple weeks in a row, maybe 3 weeks in a row, but I needed some time off to be able to recharge the batteries. That is a man speaking from experience. Nicklaus played in an era where players had more control. He knows the toll constant competition takes on the body and mind. He was watching the current generation being pushed to their limits. The crowd understood exactly what he was saying. They lived it. They were living it right now. The grind of the modern tour schedule is relentless. Nicklaus was giving voice to something they all felt but rarely said out loud. But here is where the story takes its sharpest turn. Nicklaus didn't just criticize. He proposed a conversation. He wanted to sit down with Rolapp and Commissioner Jay Monahan and work through these issues. He said, "I want to sit down with Brian and Jay and have that conversation." That was the proposal. A conversation, a dialogue between the legend and the new leadership, a chance to find common ground. And then he added something that told you he knew exactly what he was doing. He said, "I probably shouldn't have brought it up here. I'll get chastised for that later." Nicklaus knew he had just thrown a grenade into the room, and he knew exactly who was going to have to respond. The response came faster than anyone expected. Rolapp was scheduled to be at Muirfield Village the next day. When he arrived, he didn't just talk to Nicklaus. He sat down with the entire captain's club. That group included past champions and current players. That is where the 41 players witnessed everything. What happened in that closed-door meeting changed the game. But first, you need to understand what Rolapp had already been planning for years. Rolapp didn't walk into that room empty-handed. He had been working on a vision since the day he was hired, and that vision represented everything Nicklaus was fighting against. Rolapp came from the NFL, where the schedule is king. Every game matters. Every week has stakes. He wanted to bring that same clarity to golf. His idea was a two-tier system, a structure where players earn their way into elite events through performance, not just reputation. Under his plan, the PGA Tour Championship Series would feature about 23 or 24 elite events, with purses exceeding $20 million. These would be the events everyone wanted to play. Below that, the PGA Tour Challenger Series would feature about 20 events with smaller purses. But here is the catch. There would be promotion and relegation. Perform well in the Challenger Series, you move up. Struggle in the Championship Series, you drop down. Rolapp compared this to the English Premier League. The best rise to the top. The ones who cannot keep up fall down. Meritocracy at its most unforgiving. He developed this with the Future Competitions Committee, chaired by Tiger Woods. He was already preparing to announce it. The official announcement came just days after the meeting with Nicklaus, on June 23, 2026. The two-tier system was set to launch in 2028. That announcement made one thing crystal clear. Nicklaus didn't just lose a debate. He lost the war before the battle even started, because the two-tier system is the exact opposite of what Nicklaus wanted. He wanted to protect traditional tournaments, spread the stars across the schedule, give every event its moment. Rolapp wanted to concentrate the stars into fewer events, create more drama per week, make every elite tournament feel like a major. The rejection wasn't personal, it was structural. Rolapp's entire business model was built on the exact thing Nicklaus was asking him to dismantle. There was no compromise. The systems were fundamentally incompatible. When Rolapp sat across from Nicklaus in that room, he had to explain that the tour as Nicklaus knew it was already gone. The future was what Rolapp was building. Nothing Nicklaus said was going to change that. Now imagine being one of those 41 players. You are sitting in that room, watching two titans go head-to-head. You see Nicklaus, the man whose shadow covers your entire career, making a passionate case for protecting traditions. You see Rolapp, the man who controls the money and media rights, calmly explaining why those traditions are about to become obsolete. What do you do? Who do you support? How do you plan your career now? Those questions are not hypothetical. They are being answered right now, every single week, across the tour. The consequences are already visible. The meeting ended, the doors opened, and the 41 players walked out into a reality that had just shifted beneath their feet. But the story didn't end when they left. It continued into the very next tournament. Just days after that meeting, the PGA Tour arrived at Colonial Country Club for the Charles Schwab Challenge, one of the most traditional events on the entire schedule. The course demands precision and shot-making, the kind of golf real fans love. And the field was decimated. 4 major winners withdrew. Brooks Koepka, Wyndham Clark, Scottie Scheffler, and Jordan Spieth all missing the same event. Some of the biggest names in American golf, especially in Texas. Scheffler is from Texas. He is the world #1 and the face of American golf. When he skips a Texas event, it sends a message. Spieth is also from Texas. He has been tied to Colonial for years. His absence felt almost wrong. Koepka withdrew to avoid 7 straight tournament weeks before the U.S. Open. 7 weeks in a row. Players are being forced to choose between their bodies and their careers. When they choose their bodies, the tournaments suffer. Clark had just won the CJ Cup. Byron Nelson, Momentum was on his side, but he withdrew too. Colonial's 80th anniversary, a milestone event, was suddenly missing its brightest stars. The withdrawals at Colonial are not random. They are the direct consequence of the system Nicklaus warned about, and Rolapp is pushing forward. Here is the part that makes this more painful. Koepka's withdrawal didn't just affect the field, it affected two other players directly. Blair and Patrick Fishburn lost their tee times because of it. Under the returning member program, Koepka cannot take a spot away from existing members. When he enters, the field expands. If he had stayed committed to Colonial, the field would have increased from 132 to 135. Blair and Fishburn would have been those extra players. Instead, Koepka withdrew, the field stayed at 132, and Blair and Fishburn became alternates. They lost their chance to compete, earn FedEx Cup points, make money, build their careers. One scheduling decision from a superstar crushed opportunities for multiple players. That is the tragedy of the current system. The big decisions at the top ripple down and crush the players at the bottom. Players are stuck between loyalty to the tour and loyalty to themselves. They want the big events, the money, the ranking points, but they also want to survive, stay healthy, have careers that last. And here is the terrifying part. If Colonial can lose 4 major winners, what is stopping the same thing from happening to the Memorial, the players, or even the majors themselves? This is the question that should keep every golf fan awake at night. The system is not balanced. Signature events are swallowing everything. Traditional tournaments are being starved of star power. Players are forced into choices that make everyone look bad. Nicklaus saw this coming. He warned about it. His warning was rejected. Rolapp is not a bad person. He is doing what he was hired to do. Modernize the tour, compete with LIV golf, keep the sport relevant. But in the process, he is trampling on traditions that made golf what it is. The tension between these visions is not going away. It is going to get worse. The two-tier system is just the beginning. The real changes are still coming. Players are already adjusting schedules to prioritize signature events. They are skipping smaller tournaments to save themselves for big paydays. Smaller tournaments lose meaning, lose sponsors, disappear. That is not speculation. That is already happening. Colonial just showed us exactly how it works. The 41 players who witnessed that meeting will never forget what they heard. They saw the old guard make its case. They saw the new guard reject it. They saw that there was no middle ground. You either embrace the new system or you get left behind. What happens next depends on the players themselves. Right now, they are the ones caught in the middle. They have to choose between playing for tradition and playing for survival. Prioritize signature events or protect their bodies. Live with the consequences of decisions made above them. Nicklaus did what he could. He stood up and spoke his truth, tried to protect the game he loves. But the game is changing, with or without him. Rolapp is moving forward. The two-tier system is coming. The tour is going to look very different in just a few years. Players will have to adapt, whether they like it or not. For fans, this is painful. We love this sport for its traditions, its history, its connection to the past. Watching those traditions get dismantled is hard, but we also want the sport to survive, thrive. We want the best players competing in meaningful events. The question is whether we can have both. Can the tour modernize without destroying what made it great? Can players make a living without burning out? Can traditional tournaments coexist with signature events? Nicklaus believes the answer is yes, but only if the tour changes course. Rolapp believes the answer is yes, but only if the tour embraces the new system. Right now, they are both convinced the other is wrong. In the end, this story is about power. Who has it? Who wants it? Who is willing to sacrifice to keep it? Nicklaus has spent his entire life building a legacy. He has earned the right to be heard. But Rolapp has the power of the board behind him, the mandate to make changes, regardless of who opposes them. The 41 players in that room are the witnesses. They are the ones who will have to live with the outcome. They are the ones who will ultimately decide which vision wins. Because if they refuse to play the new system, it will fail. If they embrace it, the old tour is gone forever. Personally, I think this is the most consequential moment in professional golf since the PGA Tour was founded. Because this isn't just about a schedule, it's about identity. The sport is at a crossroads. One path leads to tradition, nostalgia, and a slower pace. The other leads to money, media deals, and relentless competition. Neither path is wrong, but they cannot coexist forever. What do you think? Does Rolapp's vision excite you or scare you? Do you side with Nicklaus or the new regime? Drop a comment and let me know where you stand. And if you made it this far, you are exactly the kind of fan this channel is built for. No fluff, just deep conversations about the game we love. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, because this story is far from over. The players are watching, the tour is changing, and we are going to be right here, breaking it all down every step of the way.